Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of TikTok's Everyday Philosophies, where we discuss philosophical concepts in easy to digest manner and always relevant to our everyday lives. In this video, we are going to introduce the major arguments of the normative ethical theory called utilitarianism. We begin with one undeniable fact. Actions have consequences. Whatever we do or do not do, there will always be an effect not only to others, but also to our very own life. Success is a consequence of a continued hard work. Failure, on the other hand, can be a result of the opposite. Whatever it may be, actions always have receivers of consequences. Utilitarianism is a consequentialist ethics. According to this theory, consequences are the determining factors whether an action is good or bad. In contrast with virtue ethics, where the moral worth depends on the character of the agent, utilitarianism does not put into the main stage virtuous moral dispositions. According to this framework, maximizing the good consequences is the goal of human action. An act is good therefore if it achieves such goal. Let us take for example the famous story of Robin Hood. He steals from the rich to feed the poor. We also know from the story that the rich got their wealth from the poor whom they have oppressed. If we follow virtue ethics, Robin Hood will be judged as a man of vices, as his stealing will always be against virtue. The end does not justify the means. However, utilitarianism would judge the action of Robin Hood as morally acceptable, since what he is doing maximizes the good, especially those of the poor. The end justifies. Let us take a look at the main arguments of this theory to further understand its general arguments. First, pleasure or happiness is the only thing that has intrinsic value. Pleasure is that which is sought for its own sake. We are motivated to finish our degrees, despite this pandemic, because we find that our academic degrees will maximize pleasure. Second, actions are right if they promote happiness, wrong if they produce unhappiness or pain. As a consequentialist ethics, utilitarianism judges the act whether it brings pleasure or pain. If you harm people, then you are unethical. If you help people attain happiness, then you are ethical. Third, everyone's happiness counts equally. This may not find us striking in our age, but when Stuart Mill wrote this in his time, this was a provocative idea. Remember that at the time, men and women are not taken as equal not only in their civic and political rights, but even in their very being human. To argue, therefore, that everyone's happiness is equal is to assert that everyone is equal in dignity. Centuries later, we still fight for this assertion. Furthermore, contemporary utilitarians use this argument to also assert other rights, such as animal rights. We have been talking about pleasure. The ancient Greek thinker Epicurus argued that the attainment of pleasure is the highest good. We see this Epicurean principle echoed in utilitarianism. The general principle of this theory is that pleasure must be pursued and pain must be avoided. But today, to be called hedonist or Epicurean brings negative vibes, as they already connote indulgence to bodily pleasure. In Cambridge Online Dictionary, for example, the word is defined as getting pleasure from food and drink of high quality. Notwithstanding that it is of high quality, still it remains to be pure bodily gratification. Unsurprisingly, when you Google the term, it brings you to these images. But what kind of pleasure did Epicurus really advocate? The basic happiness is sensual pleasure. The pleasure that one gets from this is immediate. Since it is bodily, the happiness that comes with it is also momentary, and pain will soon follow again. The higher form of happiness comes from the cultivation of the mind. When we train ourselves to think of ideas, discuss mental concepts, or what Epicurus generally calls as philosophizing, we attain higher form of happiness. Hence, we see that the modern meaning of Epicurean is the exact opposite of what Epicurus really meant. The true hedonist is the one who cultivates the mind. In the same manner, utilitarianism gets a bad shout-out these days. The term is sometimes taken to mean manipulating other people to gain one's personal advantage. So, what kind of pleasure does this theory truly advocate? Let's take Krishna, the gamer student. He is a fourth-year college student and a candidate for graduation this year. He is also an excellent online gamer. He is a big shot in the local online gaming community. His team is set to compete for the championship on the city's Mobile Legend competition. The prize is staked at 25,000 pesos. As the team captain, his teammates truly depend on his ability. One of his members, CJ, is working hard for this championship round because he can use the prize money for his tuition. CJ is actually happy that his team agreed to give him the lion's share. However, the date of the competition is suddenly moved a week earlier. Because of this, the competition now coincides with the finals week for the graduating students in Krishna's university. His university has a policy that no delayed exam will be given for graduating students, as all exams are scheduled under common exams. Krishna cannot miss the exam therefore, so he went to the organizers to air his concerns. However, the organizers explained that the sudden change of schedule is the request of the main sponsors of the event. So, what should Krishna do? How can utilitarianism address the situation? In the next episodes, we will try to explain the norms contained in this theory to solve Krishna's dilemma. Krishna the gamer student follows the famous thought experiment called the Trolley Problem. In this case, a trolley was heading to the fork where, on one side, there are 5 persons and on the other side, there is only one. The controller belatedly learned that his switch is malfunctioning and so he cannot stop the trolley anymore. With very little time remaining, the controller has to decide to which direction should he direct the raging trolley. The common answer would be to sacrifice one person to save the other 5. This solution, of course, would maximize the happiness as it only brings pain to one. Therefore, it can be a true utilitarian solution. But what if we change the solution a little bit? What if that one person is your father and the other 5 are total strangers? Would you change your decision? Or what if the 5 persons are highly trained soldiers on a mission to catch a terrorist about to destroy the world, and the one person on the other end is the scientist who holds the formula for COVID-19 medicine. Who would you choose to save? In our lessons, we will use classical utilitarianism to solve cases such as the ones given. The first is Jeremy Bentham's quantitative utilitarianism. And the second is John Stuart Mill's qualitative utilitarianism. In the next videos, we will discuss these philosophers and apply their standards of actions in deciding the ethically admissible decisions based on utilitarian paradigm. So that's it for this general introduction to this theory. The next video will be on Bentham's quantitative utilitarianism. Thank you once again for another philosophizing time here at TikTok's Everyday Philosophies.